All right, guys, we're back here on Southeastern 16, presented by FanDuel SEC Basketball Reaction. Here on a Thursday, two more games last night in the midweek. Alabama gets a big win against Texas A&M. Kentucky gets the victory over Oklahoma. We'll talk about all those. Let you guys hop on in the chat. We'll have a special guest coming up too here in about a half hour
Oh
to
boy.
preview
Oh boy.
some early thoughts on Saturday's games, which we'll have our predictions live for our MVPs and legends coming up here right after this show. But we're going to have a special guest, David Bearman, joining us. 20-year Max sports betting veteran. We can't say that about ourselves. A little more
Nope.
knowledge than us when it comes to that. But bring David on. He's going to give us some early thoughts on some of the big matchups on Saturday. And yeah, we're going to know all that good stuff. So
It's a great day to talk some hoops. Is the sun shining in Nashville? Is the sun shining in
no,
Nashville, Blake?
it's not. It's not. It just isn't. So yeah, we'll
We got to
figure it
make
out.
our own shine then. We got to make our own shine.
Yep. And then also today, we've got Brian and Jay doing their show live, I think for the first time. They're going to be hitting on a lot of football topics.
Oh, yeah.
We've got the baseball guys going at 11. Woo! It's a stacked day here at Southeastern 16. All right. See you later, Sam. Adios. All right, let's get into the action here. Alabama, 100. Texas A&M, 97. Who took the over? Come on, Max. Who wouldn't have taken the over with these two teams? Are you kidding me? Great game in Tuscaloosa. Alabama gets a much-needed victory, as we said. And yeah, it was just kind of a. I'll be honest with you. I thought this game played out about as exactly as we could have expected. Minus, I thought there'd be a few more turnovers. But Alabama only turned it over 6 times. A&M could not use their strength in that regard. Both teams had a ton of threes. Alabama 16 of 48. A&M 13 of 31. Alabama shoots 71% inside the arc. Both got to the free throw line a lot. I mean, yeah, I thought, like, again, if you're just looking at the stats, there's a lot that probably we could have called on this, but I think the biggest was that A&M just could not get those turnovers they've gotten. Alabama bounces back after 18 turnovers against Florida. We said top 10 in the country still after turning it over that many times against Florida. And Alabama takes care of the ball here and finds a way there at the end, although, my goodness, the tip off the free throw, you couldn't have maybe drew it up any better if you're Bucky McMillan, but the Crimson Tide rally and hold on here.
I could do a few more 197 games, Blake. What about you?
Yeah.
Quite enjoyable, minus the difference in the whistle from the first half to the second half. There was quite a difference.
Every Alabama game, I feel like they are the most. I don't even know how we would describe that in terms of a word, but I feel like every Alabama game, the second half is always different than the first half, and I don't know why.
And I'm not saying, refs favored one team or the other. I think both fan bases were losing their minds there in that second half. Just whistle, whistle, whistle. After you let them play through that in the first half, you're going to call it one way or the other. Just stay consistent with how you're going to call it, because then the teams adjust to that. But not taken away from this game, we're getting a lot of Aden Holloway love in the chat. We're getting a lot of Aden Holloway love. What a scoop shot there at the end. Clutch and one. Speaking of and ones, did a little digging into Aden Holloway. Earlier in the year, I had mentioned, I said, I like how Aden Holloway's playing through a little bit more contact. A little bit of aggression out of Aden Holloway. Okay? Here's his number, his fouls drawn per 40 minutes in SEC play. As a freshman at Auburn, just 2.7 fouls drawn per 40 minutes. Okay? Let's fast forward to last year. Just 3.1. So 2.7 and 3.1 fouls drawn per 40 minutes in SEC play first 2 years. This year, up to 5.7 fouls drawn per 40 minutes. The leap of Aden Holloway playing through contact, forcing the contact, seeking out the contact, it's been night and day compared to last year's Aden Holloway, and it's been a big boost for this Alabama backcourt offensively.
Yeah, I mean, and I thought that, I feel like we mentioned him. When was that? That was probably around the time into December, something like that. We're like, we haven't really mentioned him at all in like the SEC like first team All SEC. Like we just there's so many other guys, but I think it just was kind of a product of he plays with Labaron Philon. But yeah, like you look at this guy's overall numbers, and like he's been like you talked about just kind of the differences. Like he's just been really good, and I think just that's where again like the Alabama effect comes in, where I'm just like no matter who you play, it's out like you're gonna never feel that comfortable guarding this team. Like, and I know like Florida just took it to them, understood, but I think when they get rolling like that and they get in these kind of matchups, which again, you could kind of look at Texas A&M and say they're going to force a lot of turnovers, even if Alabama takes care of the ball. It didn't happen. But like matchups like this, we know are the ones that Alabama just thrives on. Maybe not as much so on teams like Florida and Tennessee that are going to kind of bully you around the rim. Because, we saw that in non-conference play with Purdue and Arizona and teams like that, which, again, those are probably national title contenders too. So I think that's just something like with Alabama, you watch the way that game played out and you're thinking, they got to win this one because this is exactly the kind of matchup that these are the ones they have to win. And they found a way to do it. And I mean, again, it was a total team effort too. That was the thing. It's like everybody chipped in and did something a little bit different. And of course, when you hit 16 threes, you're going to have a lot of guys that, are helping hit to that number. Reitzel hits 4. You had Millette hit 4. Again, Philon goes for 3. Jemison 2. Allen hits 2. And you just keep going down the line, right? So that was a big part of it. Aiden Sherrill thought made some pretty big defensive plays at times. Also, I think he had, 3 or 4 blocks. So, yeah, I mean, I think it was just one of those where, when you think about what we said with Nate Oates coming into the game, he's just like, hey, are we going to be a 500 team or are we going to do the things that we got to do to get this back on track? This was such a big swing game for Alabama. And I think just finding a way, no matter what, to win this game was crucial for them. Because you just think about if we're talking the reverse here, if A&M wins 197, like, this is one of those games where I feel like you can just completely go in the wrong direction after losing one like this, but Alabama finds a way to win, and yeah, I was pretty impressed with the Tide here.
Good response turnover-wise. I know you mentioned the number earlier, but 19 team assists for Alabama to only 6 turnovers, especially after the last game. Bucky did say in his post-game, he said, I knew Nate Oates would get the guys right, that they were going to come out and play a great game. You don't play that poorly with guards like Labaron Philon, Latrell Reitzel, Aden Holloway, and such 2 games in a row. It's just not going to happen. So good response there from the Alabama backcourt, taking care of the ball, not letting that press get up. And you had some comments who would have won in OT. Excuse me. I think Alabama would have. If you looked at the last few possessions there, Texas A&M's players were gassed, absolutely gassed. Agee's huffing and puffing. It was a good job by the Alabama front court to limit Agee's rebounding. I believe that was Agee's lowest rebounding total of the year, with only 3 defensive rebounds, 0 offensive rebounds. Agee still got his 21 points, 3 assists, no turnovers, a block and a steal. I mean, still had a good game, but rebounding-wise, kept the Aggies' best offensive rebounder off the boards. Good game by both. I mean, both teams. I'm coming away. I like them both. 2 teams that I don't think anyone wants to see in March in a one-off neutral court game. I don't want anything to do with having to stop Labaron Philon, Aden Holloway, and those guys. We'll just wait till Amari Allen gets fully healthy. When TBB gets back fully healthy, I don't want anything to see Alabama. I'm gonna have to put up 105 just to beat them. And then Texas A&M, 40 minutes of hell. I don't want to see them at all. 2 good teams. I'm really liking both of them right now.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you're someone who watched that entire game, 40-minute game, and one of your thoughts coming out of it was sticking to the idea and the narrative out there that Texas A&M is somehow a fraud, and you're not buying them, then listen. The Olympics are coming up. They start tomorrow. There's a lot of other sports you can get into. A lot. I mean, I enjoy my Olympic sports, Max Barr, but I mean, again, I don't know how you could watch that game and not be impressed with Texas A&M. And I it's not going to happen. Like, the narrative's not going to shift unless A&M beats Florida on Saturday, because they've kind of taken over the Vanderbilt role from earlier in the season. But And I get it. Like, again, the stats are what they are. The metrics say this, and the number of quad one games they played. All that those are facts. But I think sometimes we go so far in the direction of, oh, well, let me point out this quad one stat here, instead of, oh yeah, I watched that team play 21 games, 22 games. Pretty good basketball team. So A&M's really good. And maybe Bucky's like, you know what? Hey, just keep saying we're not very good. Because right now, like I said, here's a team. We're going to up the number now, Max, to 3. Lost 3 games since November the 14th. Overtime to SMU, double overtime at Tennessee, and by 3 on the road at Alabama. Now, how many people would trade places with A&M at this moment? I know quite a few teams in the SEC probably be okay with that. So
yeah.
Sean
all right.
was able to watch Agee for the first time. Man, it's like going back and watching one of your favorite movies for the first time again. What an experience. I am jealous. Love Agee.
Oh, gosh. All right. There you go. Upcoming schedule for both of these teams. We have, let's see, A&M, of course, against Florida on Saturday. We know that. Then they're going to host Missouri next Wednesday. So, yeah, big game coming up, I'd say, for the Aggies on Saturday. We'll talk about that here in just a little bit. Alabama, as we know, has a big game as well. They're at Auburn, and then they go to Ole Miss next Wednesday. So, and, of course, updated standings. A&M sitting atop there with Florida. So we will have one team sitting alone at the top after Saturday, and Alabama now at 5-4, trailing that group of teams at 6-3. Vanderbilt, Tennessee, Arkansas, and Kentucky now at 7-3. Kentucky, do you say? Because the Cats also got a win last night, and they get a 94-78 victory over Oklahoma. Brandon Garrison said, hold on a second. You guys at Southeastern 16 have not mentioned my name a whole lot recently, and I got something to say about that. Because this guy had his best game of the entire season. 20 points, 11 rebounds. If you're telling me I got a Cats team that's hot right now, and all of a sudden they're getting a guy back into the mix like Brandon Garrison, who's going to start stepping up and playing like this, maybe we got to redo the gut bracket. I may have the Cats cutting the nets down. Nice win for Kentucky.
Yeah, real nice win. And even when Kentucky went up by, they just got up about double digits. And you get the feeling like, okay, is Oklahoma going to fold here? And Kentucky's going to run away with this behind the crowd? They're going to start forcing turnovers and everything? Or is Oklahoma going to get back into this game? And they start to creep back in a little bit, get it down to 10, maybe get it down to 8, and then bang, right back out there. Good responses after for Kentucky after Oklahoma started to chip into that lead. They're doing it with the defense, Blake. They're doing it with the defense. Let's go. I mean, this is what we expected all year. You know, you're finally seeing it put together consistently. You know, you'd get a game, then it'd fall back. Then you'd get a game, then this guy's out. Finally getting some consistent product from the Cats. Defensively, 27 free throws. You make 81.5% of them. Mark Pope will take that. Did you catch his little, it was short, but Mark Pope had a funny press conference. He was picking up his daughter from the airport. I hadn't seen her in a while, and he comes in real quick and then looks at his phone. He's like, oh my gosh, Avery's landed in 22 minutes. I got to get out of here. I'll see you guys later. Mark Pope having a good night after a big Oklahoma win. We haven't talked about Brandon Garrison enough, but we also haven't highlighted Otega Oweh enough. 24, 24, 20, 23 points in his last 4 games. Getting to the free throw line in double digits in 2 out of 4 of those. 9 free throws last night. He's being aggressive. He's has the highest free throw rate he's had in his whole career. Honestly, I don't think we've given Oweh enough love for maybe this next topic that we'll end up getting to.
Oh, he'll be discussed when we get to our next topic.
Yeah.
We'll mention him. By the way, Grayson with a $2 super chat says he has a chemistry exam today. Doesn't matter. Go Cats. H2 plus O2 equals BG. Brandon Garrison. That's what I'd put on my exam if I were Grayson here today. I mean, you don't want to fail. Don't do that. But yeah, again, Brandon Garrison, you mentioned, like, we haven't talked about it a lot because, in all honesty, again, like, we know his role has kind of been diminished a bit. Moreno's kind of stepped into, obviously a bigger role as the season has progressed and all those things. And so it has been interesting just to see, we talked about kind of the front court rotation and such for Kentucky. I think that's been, kind of something that I'm not saying it's going to happen every game, right? But you can't. I'm very intrigued now because I'm like, hey, we just saw that from Brandon Garrison, and you're telling me that Kentucky could have a rotating front court now of guys like this who are contributing the way they are. And I know it's Oklahoma. Okay, I get it. Like, Oklahoma's the worst team in the SEC and all that. But I just think when you're talking about a team that completely had lost its confidence the way Kentucky had, legitimately 1 month ago, right? And now a month later, we're talking about a team that's won 7 of 8. You got a guy like this who hasn't really been a factor, stepping up in big moments, making big plays, and then you know what you got around him. And, you've got potential SEC Player of the Year in Oweh and all these other guys that just keep contributing at such a high level. I mean, Colin Chandler, how many times we said this guy's name throughout this run that Kentucky's had? Like, he has been he's been tremendous. And like I mentioned, it's not even just the stuff you see in the stat sheet, which he's been fine at. I mean, he's made a lot of threes and scoring points and all that, but some of the defensive plays he's made, we've talked about kind of the importance of those. So, yeah, and I know there will be, as usual, it's like, oh, it's Oklahoma. It is Oklahoma, but we said the thing about Oklahoma is that even though they are 1-9, look how many close games they had played, and look how close they had been against some of these top teams like Alabama, Arkansas, Missouri, Texas, and then Kentucky just said, that's okay. We're going to beat you by 16. So
I want to credit 2 players that got a lot of pushback for their play earlier in the year and then are just killing it now. Like, major reason for this turnaround here for Kentucky. It's one half the Vitches,
shout out to the Vitches.
Shout out to Vitches, and Colin Chandler. Those 2 guys have turned around their play, stepped up with these injuries. Yelovich was a healthy scratch for the first 2 games of SEC play. Didn't even touch the floor. He hasn't turned the ball over in 4 straight games.
Mm-hmm.
He's just made winning play after winning play. Last night, 22 minutes, 9 points, 2 of 3 from 3, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, no turnovers. Yelovich has completely turned around his play. And then Colin Chandler, I'll read you. These are his scoring outputs from December 9th to January 14th, okay? This is like 9 games here. 7, 4, 0, 4, 3, 0, 7, 9. That was a stretch of Colin Chandler play through late December, early January. His last 6, 18, 13, 4, 12, 18, 12. That turnaround is massive, and you can see an uptick in all of Kentucky's offensive efficiency numbers that go right with Yelovich and Chandler up in their play.
Yeah, oh, that's a good point. I just, like, if you remember, the biggest talking point we had about Kentucky going into the season was their depth. Now, little did we know that they were going to be playing without 2 of their top 3 players in Lowe and JQ.
Yep,
as much as they have. And I think it's like, okay, like, this is where, when we looked at it and we were convincing ourselves of the depth, this is why. And listen, we were questioning it there for a while. But I think just having that many guys. Now, see, Sam, I'm going to disagree a little bit because I don't think you need 8 guys max. That's true. But also, when you have this many injuries, like, you need a lot of guys that can play. You know what I mean, Max? Like, I think that's the conversation we're having here. Is the reason I think we were interested so much in Kentucky's depth is because we kind of had equated them to the San Francisco 49ers. And if you lose certain guys, then you got to have enough guys who can step in. So I'm not saying you got to necessarily play 10 guys at a time, but you got to have 12 guys on the roster, because if you get in Kentucky's scenario where you've lost, as many guys as they've had due to injury, then you need a little bit more of that to be able to bring yourself back up. So
it just took a little bit longer than we would have liked, but it is what it is. 7-3 in the conference. Cats are right there with A&M and Florida. Vanderbilt, Tennessee, Arkansas are 6-3. Those three teams, they're inserting themselves right into this SEC title race, Blake.
They are. And we know what Kentucky gets on Saturday. They're going to host Tennessee. And then what a nice time to have the midweek off before they head to Florida the following Saturday. So Kentucky will once again take center stage in these next two games because those are big ones, to say the least, for the Cats. Oklahoma, if you're trying to figure out when they're going to win one, maybe it happens on Saturday, but they're at Vanderbilt. Then they're home against Georgia the following Saturday, at Tennessee, home against A&M, home against Auburn. Ooh, it's a rough 5-game stretch.
Gonna have a little bit of 2024 Missouri going on here with the Sooners.
Yeah, we're going to see how they play these next 5 games because that's a tough stretch. All right.
Yeah.
There you have it. Okay. SEC Player of the Year race. We've been talking about this, and we're going to bring David on here in about 8 minutes or so. So we're going to get some quick thoughts on this. Before we do, let me tell you quickly about our friends at And Collar, andcollar.com. You see it right there on the screen, the new little graphic on the side. andcollar.com, SEC16 for 16% off. Performance menswear brand makes polos, button-ups, quarter zips, pants, you name it, stretchy, affordable, make you look good. They invented the Workleisure. Stain resistance, comfort, wrinkle resistance, machine washable, lightweight. Those are all the features, but that's just 5 of them. They got 143 more, including the price. It's going to be even better. SEC16 for 16% off over at andcollar.com. Don't forget about ROKFORM, ROKFORM.com. The world's strongest magnetic phone case, extreme protection, super strong magnets, rock lock, secure mounting, SEC25, 25% off over at ROKFORM. Unbelievable. Those people over there, 25% off. And then Icon Wallets. Stop carrying around the George Costanza special. Go get an Icon wallet, premium Napa leather, 3 interchangeable university icons. Remember, they are officially licensed collegiate wallets. Find yours over there and use our code SEC16 for 20% off over there. SEC16, 20% off. Make that upgrade now. They look good, they work better for you, and they don't hurt your back. Come on, what else could you ask for? Icon wallets. Head over there. All right. SEC Player of the Year race, Max. Before we get to it, Mike had $2 super chat to say back to poverty for Bucky McMillan. Soft schedule. I think we know what Micah thinks about Buckyball. We've heard before. We've heard it. But there you go.
Passionate Alabama fan. Yeah, you got to be passionate. Got to
be passionate sometimes. All right. Player of the Year race. Have you narrowed your list down to 14?
I don't know if I've gotten to 14. Chat, what do you? We already got some chats coming in here. Weighing in.
He is. Yeah, he is in the running.
Weighing in.
All right, let's do this. No more beating around the bush here. If you're picking an SEC Player of the Year right now, who you picking?
No more beating around the bush. SEC
you gotta
Player
pick one.
of the Year. Right now, I would want to give my vote to Ruben Chinyelu, but I think I would give it to Thomas Houck.
Okay.
I think I would go with Thomas Houck. If I had to just give you one ballot, I think I would go with Houck.
All right, that was my pick yesterday. I'm gonna keep it as of right now. I'm gonna go Tommy H.
Okay.
But if we're talking legitimate contenders, and I know we'll leave someone off and we'll hear about it, but if we're talking legitimate SEC Player of the Year contenders right now, I think you've got Tommy H. Tell me if I'm missing one or if I'm including one that shouldn't be there. Tommy H. Otega Oweh, Keyshawn Hall, Labaron Philon, Jacoby Gillespie, Darius Acuff, Tyler Tanner. Who am I missing? I feel like I'm forgetting someone. Dalen Swain?
You could throw Swain in there based on his numbers.
I think that's it. Unless I'm forgetting
the
someone.
ones on
Agee.
the outside that you said Oweh, right?
Yeah, Rashaun Agee.
Yep. The ones on the outside there that you didn't mention would be like an Alex Condon.
I think he'd be third on his team, so it'd be hard to put him on there.
Yeah, I know. would be like a Nate Ament if he keeps going, a Mark Mitchell based on his numbers, maybe an Aden Holloway or a Duke Miles based on their numbers. But yeah, that's pretty much the group.
I bet when we bring David on, he may have something to add about the 2 or 3 Florida players that we discuss. I think he may have a few thoughts on the Gators. We can see David shaking his head right now. He's ready. He's ready for this discussion
Ruben?
In a second.
Did we mention Ruben?
Did we mention Ruben?
If we didn't, we are right now.
Oh, we said that if we were picking an SEC Player of the Year right now, I don't think most people would pick Ruben. But we both agreed yesterday that I think Ruben is the most valuable player in the SEC. Everything that he does. So, but I'd pick Tommy H right now. Sir Thomas Houck would be my SEC Player of the Year choice at this very moment.
Who do you think is, and chat weigh in on this as well, who do you think is the genuine SEC Player of the Year contender, first team contender, that is just being disrespected a little bit right now?
Don't be biased.
That's being overlooked. Yeah, don't be genuinely. Who do you think
the
is
chat would never be biased?
An SEC level, SEC Player of the Year level, that's being overlooked right now, just a little bit. Because my pick would be Gillespie, Jacoby Gillespie. I feel like he's being taken for granted right now. Yeah. His numbers are incredible. He's in Evan Mia. He's by far the most valuable player in the SEC to his team. You got Rick Barnes coming out here saying we've got to work around practice to have Jacoby not play so that the team can figure out success without him. My pick would be Gillespie. I feel like he's being underappreciated.
Yeah, I agree with that. And we're going to call that the Sam Smith chat slant. I feel like Sam knocks Gillespie so much in the chat that we have bought into it. But you put him up against anybody out there, and that guy's numbers are tremendous. So,
A-Cups?
I'd say that. I think Darius A-Cup would be in the conversation, but it's also, I don't want to say he's a lock anymore to win Freshman of the Year because Nate Ament has been right there now. But I think Darius A-Cup's probably got it unless he just falls off. So
it's just the SEC this year. Right when you think you have one thing for sure, okay, we got one thing figured out. Darius A-Cup, Freshman of the Year. Here comes Nate Ament putting up ridiculous numbers for 2-3 straight weeks to muddy that race up. Also, everything's a race in this league this year.
Micah says we're disrespecting Labaron Philon. Labaron Philon was my SEC non-conference player of the year. He was my easy choice at the end of December. I don't think we're disrespecting Philon. I just think
in that top 5, easy, locked into that top 5 right now.
He's in there. All right.
Oh yeah.
How about we bring on David to chat about some upcoming matchups for this weekend? Get some early thoughts from, as we said earlier, 20-year veteran of the betting industry, the host of Betting with Bearman. David Bearman joins us. He's here.
I like the intro. It was a pretty good one.
It's maybe not my best work, but I tried to bring some energy because I know David.
Don't give him too much confidence.
As you can see, there's something hanging over David's head back there, and it's not us. We're not the ones just bringing him down, but the Florida Gators have been playing pretty well right now. So Dave, we're going to give you an opportunity, okay? We made our debate about SEC Player of the Year right now. I said I would pick Thomas Houck, but you were nodding when we were talking about everybody's made us knight these two guys. So we got Sir Thomas Houck, we got King Ruben, and so Ruben's just been on another level this year.
Can I just give you one stat that may decide this entire conversation? And listen, they both could get it. Absolutely. I love them both, obviously. And maybe if you were giving most improved award, Sir Ruben would run away with it. He's got 13 double-doubles this season. The Gators are 13-0 in those games.
Yeah, there you go.
Nice stat.
I didn't realize
he's the games he doesn't play well, they've lost. The games he's played well, they win. To me, that's MVP. And you're looking at a guy who had issues last year. Listen, I've watched every single second of them playing, and I said if they didn't win the national title, it was going to be because King Ruben was missing 2-footers repeatedly, couldn't shoot from the foul line, and disappeared on defense. But he did none of those against Alabama. He basically was the reason that, the whole team played awesome. But when he goes, the team goes. Haw does it every game. And I'm not taking anything away from him because he does do it every single game. That's the expectation. Chinny kind of came out of nowhere and is just dominating teams right now, which is where I give him the edge. It's sort of like Player of the Year versus MVP can be seen as different awards. And Player of the Year is probably Thomas Howell. Yeah. But MVP, I would lean Chinny because they go as he goes to me.
Do we have a little? Remember last year we had when Denzel Aberdeen makes a 3 trend going. I think we need a new. Now we need a Ruben double trend going here.
Yeah,
we might. Yeah. He's 13-0, and I had to do the math again this morning. It's 13. That's a high number. So we were, I counted and counted and counted. I'm like, well, they won all 13 games, and I went to the game at the Garden versus UConn. And might as well just been in stores with that crowd. And because I live up in Connecticut. So I went to the Garden to see the game. And it was like me and my brother were texting like another 2-foot miss by Ruben. And, it's a 1-possession game with 30 seconds to go. And in your head, all you can remember is the guy missing 4 free throws and a couple of layups and putbacks. He didn't do that against Alabama. He hasn't done that against Tennessee. So again, they go as he goes. So at the end of the day, they're going to either win the national title or not based on their 3-pointers. We can get to that in a second. When they're last in the SEC in shooting threes, yet they're still a top 20 team in the country, they need someone to hit those threes. But they win when Ruben plays well, and they lose when he doesn't.
Yep, that's the case. Well, speaking of, obviously, we mentioned we were going to kind of just get some quick thoughts from you on these upcoming games on Saturday because obviously now that the midweek is done, everyone's turning our attention ahead, and we've got several ones I think that are just fascinating. And I'm curious to see kind of what you've seen from some of these other teams too. The big one is Florida at Texas A&M, and we were talking about the Aggies this morning, and we've been of the belief that I know kind of you can look at the number of quad 1 games they played or lack thereof and all this other stuff, but just when you watch A&M play, it's hard not to be impressed. And we're talking about a team that's lost 3 games now since November 14th, 2 in overtime. And then they lose by 3 last night at Alabama. What have you kind of seen maybe overall? What your thoughts on just the matchup and kind of where you're at with the Aggies right now?
I'm actually surprised they're not getting more credit than they deserve. I've seen this Aggies team play. I think they're a really, really solid team. I think they're a second weekend team. I think they'll make the Sweet 16, obviously, depending on the matchups. Are they good enough to beat Florida? Well, they're at home, so that helps them at home. And, I was reading something earlier this morning, and it still said they had work to do on their resume. And I kind of disagree. I know that their schedule hasn't been the hardest in the country and the non-conference schedule wasn't great. This is a really good basketball team. Obviously, Rashaun Agee, you talked about earlier about him not getting as much respect, 14.5 points per game, 8.5 rebounds per game. They go where he goes, but they also have tremendous guard play on this team. And that's where I think their advantage over Florida in that one respect is at guard play, because Florida has struggled this year with Boogie and Xavier Lee and not be able to hit the shots. A&M has it, with Ruben Dominguez and Ryan Griffin and Marcus Hill, they have good guard play. But what this game's going to come down to is A&M can score 92 points per game, second in the SEC, third in the country behind Georgia. Florida has the best defense in the SEC and potentially one of the best defenses in the country. It's really a big man, Chinaloo, Haw, Condon, big-time team, number 1 rebounding team in the country versus a guard-first shooting team in A&M. So it's going to be interesting to see the offense versus the defense. We also saw that a few days ago with Alabama being a running-gun shooting team and Florida's defense, and we saw the end result. I don't expect this to be a 30-point blowout. Florida's going to be a slight favorite if I'm going to project the lines. The one difficult thing about college basketball when you're trying to handicap, the lines aren't out yet. So, as of this morning, FanDuel hadn't posted them yet, which is understandable. There were games played last night, and there's a few days away. I expect Florida to be a small favorite with the way they're playing, and Texas A&M is just not getting the love in the betting market. But I do think taking points at home with A&M isn't the worst thing in the world. This is a team that can absolutely win this game. If the guards run and shoot and make their shots and not allow Florida, the best way to defend, with all due respect to the Alabama coach, the best way to defend a rebounding team is to make your shots. They can't rebound what is not there. So Nate Oates can complain all he wants about how many seconds Florida's in the key, but when you're shooting 25% and Florida has rebounds galore, that's why you lost that game. So I think this is going to come down to whether, quite frankly, A&M makes their shots or not.
How much weight, if anything, do you put into that midweek off there, being able to rest up a little bit, get that Tuesday, Wednesday slate off?
I think if you were struggling, it's huge. But Florida has been playing as good as anybody in the country, so it might have worked against them. Like after that Alabama game, they would have wanted to play the next day. But it is that rare week off where there's no game in the middle there. But it's for both. At least A&M had a tough one last night. No, obviously with Alabama, Florida has the rest, but this isn't the NFL. Do you need an entire week of rest? So I think it probably doesn't hurt Florida, but I don't think it helped them because they were ready to play. I mean, the way they played against Alabama, you wanted to play. You were hoping that was the Final Four, and you had one day off before you go play the national championship game. The way they played against Bama.
Yeah.
Well, and speaking of Alabama, I mean, I think this matchup is just as fascinating as any, and it's because these are two teams that maybe, if we were saying you're halfway through the conference slate, are you surprised they're both 5-4? Probably we'd say yes, like with Alabama and Auburn. And I think, they've both been a little up and down at times, to say the least. I think probably, Max, you would agree, and we've talked about this, like a lot of that has been maybe some ups and downs defensively for both these teams when you just kind of look at the numbers. But you also look at it and you're like, these are two of the top, 12 offensive teams out there. Alabama's, I think, third in adjusted offensive efficiency. Auburn's 12th. I know you mentioned quite a few things, David, about just Alabama because we've seen them recently in these two high-profile games. But how do you kind of look at this game on paper? Because this is one where I'm just like, these two teams feel pretty similar in a lot of regards, just based on maybe the way they're playing right now.
Yeah, not only do they have very similar profiles with how they play, but how they've done their schedule has been very similar as well. Alabama, you got wins against St. John's, Illinois, and beating A&M yesterday, which was not only a good win, but it was a heck of a bounce back win. You're always concerned when you go in there and you talk the talk and don't walk the walk against Florida, what happens the next game? You go out and beat A&M, which is what they needed to do. But they've also lost to Purdue, lost to Gonzaga, lost to Arizona, lost to Vandy, and got crushed by Florida. That's Alabama. Auburn has been no different. They got wins against Florida, St. John's, and Arkansas. They got run out of the building by Michigan and Arizona and lost by 1 to Houston. So they've played one heck of a schedule. I mean, they've arguably played 3 of the top 5 teams in the country in that schedule. It depends on which teams show up. They're both, like you said, 5-4 in the SEC. They both can shoot. They both like to score. You were talking about Labaron Philon before I got on in terms of not getting the respect he deserves. He's someone that is up for Player of the Year candidate as well, 21.5 points per game. But what did he do against tough competition? He scored 14 and 17 in his last 2 games. So is this a guy that can beat up on the poor teams in the league and not be able to play well against the good teams? And is Auburn one of those good teams? Which category do they fall into? So we know Alabama's going to be in the tournament. We think Auburn's going to be in the tournament. But what worries me about Auburn and why I think this game this weekend is so important versus Alabama, they're right now in, but they also have the 11th hardest remaining schedule in the country with Vandy, Arkansas, Kentucky, and a rematch in Tuscaloosa against Bama. So win the home game because your road moving forward is going to be very, very difficult. And if you don't win one of those tough games, they might be one of those teams that you're like nervous on Selection Sunday.
They're literally the same team on Torvik over the past month. Auburn's 24th, Alabama 28th. They have the 15th and 18th offensive efficiency, 57th and 68th defensive efficiency. Over the last month of basketball, on
Same
paper,
team.
it's pretty much the same profile.
And their net ratings are the same, 22 and 29, which is why I think they're both in the tournament. But Auburn has a much tougher schedule to go. And you don't want to be that team that loses 4 of their last 6 games and then maybe one and done in the SEC tournament. And you start questioning where you stand. I expect them both to be, and I expect all 6 teams that we're talking about today to be in the tournament. Okay. But, I think more Florida, Bama, Tennessee, maybe A&M are closer to the lock situation where Kentucky and Auburn are in, but there are scratches on that record,
right.
So to speak.
Right.
Yeah, and that's where, I feel like we talked about this a lot. It's kind of just and we'll segue to Kentucky and Tennessee, but just the strength of schedule you need it more so this year if you're the SEC, especially teams like that, because last year you'd racked up so many good wins in non-conference play that, yeah, it was okay just because, 185 and 23 or whatever. But this year you don't have those slam dunk non-conference resumes, but at least the strength of schedule is working in the favor of some of these teams. Should they hit a bit of a skid, should still be okay. But yes, Kentucky, Tennessee, I'll tell you, David, like that's probably two of our biggest fan bases here. They, those games are always intense, and we just saw Kentucky go in and win in Knoxville, a couple weeks ago. They win that one 80-78. But I think, you could argue outside of Florida probably right now that Kentucky and Tennessee are playing as well as anybody in the SEC just based on it. I mean, Kentucky's now won, 7 of 8. Tennessee, if you look at their last 4 games, they have wins at Alabama. They get the win over Auburn. They win the game in wild fashion at Georgia. Before that, remember, they get the double overtime win against A&M. So the Vols have kind of turned it around. Kentucky's definitely turned it around. And, this is such an interesting one because we said, even going to that game in Knoxville, for whatever reason, Kentucky's just kind of had Tennessee's number over the past, couple of years now at least. And this is another one where you're just thinking like, man, seems to set up pretty nicely for the Cats in Lexington.
Yeah, and these are two teams that quite honestly, I wouldn't want to play right now. You hit it on the head with how they're playing. If you got them earlier in the season, that's one thing. But like these are two teams playing exceptional right now. They're both top 30 in net rating. They're two of the top defensive teams in the conference in terms of scoring defense, 1 and 2 scoring defense, very similar profiles as well. Tennessee they're just bigger. We talked about Florida being bigger than A&M. Tennessee is bigger than Kentucky, and it showed in that first game. I know the end result was Kentucky by 2, and there's the W hanging up there, and that's what these two teams are going to talk about, and what we'll talk about. Tennessee outplayed them in that game. There's a reason why they were up 17. They dominated on the glass. They dominated down low, and that is where Tennessee can beat Kentucky, but you can't let Kentucky hang around. They've come back from double digits multiple times this year, and now they're at home. So this is a different scenario where you're in Lexington versus going into Knoxville and stealing a win. But I watched that game, and it was one of those situations where if you're a live betting fan, it was a whole lot of fun for you because Tennessee dominated that game, but you just felt it coming. You felt it coming. It was 17. It was 12. It was 10. It was 8. And it's like you said, they have their number. And at what point is Kentucky going to hit that big shot? And then, of course, they did and won that game. They're two really, really good teams. Tennessee's resume is a little bit better right now than Kentucky, who, if you look at the numbers, and you guys may agree with me here, Kentucky does a lot of things well. They don't really do anything great. They're one of those teams where you look at their profile like, yeah, they're a solid team. They're, upper middle of the pack in scoring and in defense and rebounding. They're really good at blocks. But what do they do really, really well? They're not a top 10 shooting team. They're not a top 10 rebounding team, but they're a really good basketball team. And, Tennessee, you can point to really good defense. Jacoby Gillespie's their scorer. They know what it takes and where they're at. In Kentucky, it's like there's some games they look like a Final Four team, and then there are some games where you lose by 25, they're Vanderbilt. So Kentucky's one of those box of chocolate teams you really never know what you're going to get. I know that's cheesy, but it works for them. And I didn't plan it, by the way.
You could say that for about 90% of the league.
I feel like that's the case for everybody almost. Yeah.
You just don't know what you get with them, and you've seen them play exceptional, but you've also seen them get run out of the building. I expect them to have a very good game against Tennessee. I think it's going to be very similar to Florida A&M. I think Kentucky will be a small favorite in this game because they got the home edge. And whether with college basketball being so crazy, you could see this come down to the wire as a lot of the Kentucky-Tennessee games do. Or if Tennessee is rebounding and hitting their shots, they could blow Kentucky right out of the building.
I do wonder about if the turnover numbers for Tennessee from their last game carries over. Last game, team turnover rate of only 12%. That was their second lowest all season. And as we know, turnovers and transition offense for Kentucky gets them going. So see if that carries over.
Yeah, and there's bad blood there. I know it's college kids, so that's not something that carries over 20 years, but we saw the little pushing and shoving after the game. But that's what happens when you roll into someone's building and beat them in the last seconds after being down 17 points. You're going to see upset kids. We'll see if that carries over. And mean, Tennessee gave that game away. We can all agree, and that's not any disrespect in taking anything away from Kentucky, but Tennessee flat out handed that one away, and they're going to want to take it back. So we'll see what they bring this week versus Kentucky.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Like we said, the way that last game finished, Gillespie missed some of the free throws, just some uncharacteristic turnovers, and yeah, of course, Tennessee's offensive rebounding numbers too. Max, we always bring that up. Like, that's just something you cannot ignore with Tennessee and just the historic pace they're on right now in terms of offensive rebounding. So we'll see what Kentucky do there. David, before we let you hop off, anything else, of note you feel like this season worth mentioning just because caught your eye in the SEC from a betting perspective or otherwise? Just kind of, overall thoughts here is, now we're halfway through the league slate.
I think I saw someone say it the other day. I don't know if it was Reese Davis or Jay Will. He said something about, actually it might have been Seth Greenberg, saying last year the SEC had all the good teams, all the star teams. They had, 3-4 potential Final Four teams. Obviously, they put 2 in the Final Four. Florida might be that team, but outside of Florida, the rest of the conference is good, not great. You could see a whole bunch of teams make it, and wouldn't be surprised to see them put 4 or 5 teams in the second weekend. But outside of Florida, who do you consider a Final Four team? And even Florida has played its way out of that conversation at times, not recently, but you don't see any top 10 SEC teams right now. They have nobody in the top 10. The highest ranked team is Vandy. You could argue Florida is the best team in the conference, and been there, done that. You can see them going back again. But this tournament's going to be interesting because I'm not sure there's anybody else there that is a Final Four caliber team, but it also wouldn't stun you if I said close your eyes and told you that a Tennessee or Kentucky made the Elite Eight or Final Four. It wouldn't be stunned, but it's also not something you're picking in your bracket if the bracket was tomorrow.
That's what we wrestled with, Max, I feel like all year. It's like, we said it a minute ago. It's like we'll see one of these teams come out and play really well, and then we'll see them go on the road and lose by 20. And it's just like, is that just college basketball, or what's going to be the thing that separates? And that's I'm more optimistic, I'll say, but like you said, it's one where if you flipped a coin and told me that the 4th best team in the SEC gets beat in the first round and or makes the Final Four, I'd be like, sounds about right. So
if I told you Nate Oates got Alabama to the Final Four, you'd be like, that's possible.
Right.
If I told you they lost in the second round to a mid-major because they shot 20% from 3-point land, you would say, that also makes sense.
Exactly. Yep.
I think last year it was like, it doesn't matter what the path is. These X teams, I'm not picking them to lose. This year, I feel like it's very matchup based with the SEC. If Texas A&M gets like a 6 seed and their 3 is Gonzaga, who they'll be able to run up and down, I'll be like, okay, well, I might pick Texas A&M to go on a little run here. But if they get Iowa State, as a 3 or something, and it's like, okay, well, I guess the Aggies are only winning 1 game. Like, it's very matchup based for me.
And I totally agree with that. And, this is different than last year where, I have friends that are Duke fans and I have friends that are Houston fans. I'm like, guys, Florida not only is good, but they played one of the hardest schedules in the country. They ran the gamut and won the conference of teams that literally are Final Four caliber teams. That's why this team's winning the national title, because they're battle tested and they're the best in the best conference. I wouldn't say that this year about the SEC. I wouldn't. Even whoever comes out as the SEC champ, I wouldn't say, hey, that team's automatically, unless it's a Florida team who has been there. Like, I'm not saying just because Tennessee wins the conference that they're the Final Four. That's not the caliber of team they are this year.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Again, we're halfway through. We'll see how these teams finish and all of that. But, David, we really enjoyed this. And again, I know you're part of the Believe Network, too. Hopefully we can have you back on. Would love to have the conversation again, just kind of as the SEC season progresses. We said, guys, you can check out David's show over at Betting with Bearman there. Check it out. Find it in any podcast app you use over there. But, David, we really appreciate it. Anything else you want to plug on the way out? Go for it.
No, I would say the Betting with Bearman podcast, it dropped yesterday. We had the Ringer podcast host, Raheem Palmer. He does one of the Ringer betting shows, and we broke down everything Super Bowl 60. And we even talked about the NBA trade deadline. So anything you want Super Bowl 60 betting-wise, we went through sides, props, totals, etc. It's the Betting with Bearman podcast, and also have a newsletter at bearmanbets.com. So make sure you check that out. And, there's an SEC lean towards that newsletter at times, but I'm not going to apologize for that.
No, you shouldn't. Here you go. So you got a Patriots fan right here in the middle of us, David. He needs some optimism.
Not confident Patriots fan.
You're the only. I'm in Connecticut, so I live in New England after growing up in Florida, and you are the first Patriots fan to tell me they're not confident. So congratulations, you're the first. Because if you walk around town, or you go to Stop and Shop, or you're going to the youth basketball game for my kid this weekend, I mean, you would think that they're favored by 30. So a lot of confidence up here in New England.
Our offensive line's going to get destroyed.
I have Seattle -4.5, and I have the under 45.5, predicated on New England's offense, as great as they were during the regular season, did not play well against actually good defenses in the playoffs. And that's my cap right there. Is Seattle's a very good defense. And I agree with you. I think that defensive line is going to beat them up. And, Drake May, may or may not win the MVP later tonight, but he has not looked good against good defenses.
Yep. I agree. Sadly.
It's all right, Max. It's always next year.
I'm not going to feel bad if you guys lose. You have 47 Super Bowl champions.
Exactly.
Yeah, spoiled ever. I know.
But you don't have any Hall of Famers from the front office on the first pass.
What are you going to do? You got to get someone better than Tom Brady and Bill Belichick and Robert Kraft. What are you doing?
Come on.
I don't think I've ever seen a topic where 100% of social media agrees on one side. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing?
Absurd. All right, David. Again, we appreciate the conversation, and let's catch up again soon. This was fun.
Absolutely. Anytime, guys. Enjoy.
All right. Thanks, David. All right, guys, there you go. There was David Bearman. Great to catch up with him. Ollie's comment. Good job, chat. Well behaved for company. We always have to have that reminder. You guys behave well when we have company around here. Take your shoes off, like it's okay.
Yep.
So, but yeah, on the way out here, we're about to hop off and go to our predictions. Shocker that Micah thinks this guy. Micah just disagrees with everything. Come on, Micah. We appreciate Micah's support here. He's a member at Southeastern 16.
We do.
But give us your Super Bowl picks in the comments, because this will be our well, no, we'll have some on Saturday. I guess we have some more picks on Saturday, but let us know what you think. Give Max some optimism for the Super Bowl.
I have no confidence. I'll say this is the way I'm putting it. If Drake May wins a Super Bowl in his second year in the NFL, you're all done. Done. It is over for everybody else. I cannot see it happening. I can't see it happening. I can't see Drake May in his second year beating one of the best defenses in the NFL with a great coach. Patriots have been winning behind their run defense. Guys, I don't know. I don't like it.
Yeah. Well, there you go. A lot of people picking the Pats in the chat. So, except for Big Field goals and
safety.
So, I've got on record, I got 23-20 Seahawks. But I also have Sam Darnold as my MVP, and I just don't know about that. So,
I did watch. There's this film guy. He's like my age on Twitter. He does these great film breakdowns, and he did a film breakdown on how the Patriots can use booty in isolation, just like other teams have done against the Seahawks. Puka had a big catch against Seahawks. I do think Vrabel's a fantastic coach. I do trust Vrabel to have a good game plan, but I can see, like you said, like 23-20. Okay, Patriots are up 20-16 with 3 minutes left, and then Drake May strip sack, fumble, scoop and score. Patriots rip my heart out.
Yeah,
it's not happening.
Well, we're going to find out on Sunday, but we got a lot more to come on the channel before we get to the Super Bowl. Of course, we got our predictions coming up live. We're going to do our predictions for MVPs and Legends, so head over there. We're going to do the featured games. We're not going to do every game because we've got some time constraints with the other stuff on the channel today. So we're going to do our featured games live for our MVPs and Legends. Then you got Brian Edwards, Jay Greason coming up in about an hour. They're going to talk about some football topics and give a little basketball picks, Brian's picks of the weekend. And then, at some point today, you got baseball coming up. I think they're doing top 10 hitters and pitchers heading into the season. You got a full day's work here at Southeastern 16. What more could you ask for? Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, turn on your notifications. We appreciate you guys watching. Be sure to support our fine sponsors and caller, ROKFORM, Icon Wallets, and our friends over at FanDuel. Thanks, as always, for watching. And hold on, we got super chats that I forgot to get to. Oh, wait a second. One of them's a $5 super chat from Micah, calling out. He's calling name calling. Bringing up Nate Oates losing in the second round. Just absurdity of that possibility. Daniel says, oh, here we go. Daniel's back, $5 super chat. Like the records show, Kentucky could still win the league and conference tournament. I'll be expecting shaved heads when they do. So,
I forgot.
right.
Oh my gosh.
Was that part of the deal?
Yep, I'll do it. I'll do it.
I forgot. Was that early? I thought that was last season. Was it this season? I don't remember. For some reason I thought that was last season. Maybe we made the same bet last season. I'm not sure. So, there you go. All right. Micah yelling at me to show the chat. Did it. All right, we're out of here. Appreciate you guys watching as always. Head over MVPs and Legends. Predictions live coming up for the big Saturday games. The big three. We're going to go make our picks for those right now. Head over there. I guess I should put the link in real quick. That's probably a smart thing for me to do for all of you who are not MVPs or Legends. And yeah, we're heading over there right now. And join us. Be an MVP. Be a legend here at Southeastern 16. We'll see you over there shortly. Thanks for watching.